Thank you all so much for joining. I am so glad you're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Feel free to post in the chat. Tell us where you're joining from. We're so glad you're here. If you wouldn't mind, feel free to go to the next slide, Dan. If you don't know where you are or you forgot where you are, welcome to the third week of the Viva Engage Monday Masterclass. Of course, we know for a few of you, it actually might be Tuesday, but we're so glad you're here. Today's session, we're really going to focus on the corporate communications role, and I am joined by some incredible product leaders and experts. My name is Allison Michaels. If I haven't met you, hello. So excited to spend some time with you all this afternoon, this morning, this evening, wherever you're joining us for. And before you ask, yes, this is being recorded. Yes, we will share the slides, and yes, we will post all of the updates. Be sure to follow us on our Viva Engage blog or our YouTube channel to make sure that you get this content so that way you can share it with your other friends or partners in IT or in your other business functions as well. If you go ahead to the next slide, I just wanted to put a plug in here. I know this is really early for many of you in this particular session, but next week we're going to be doing a deep dive with a special guest VP of Communication Strategy at Microsoft, all about AI and communications, kind of at the broadest sense of the term of what this could look like for communicators. So while this session, we're not going to talk in super big depth about AI and communications, we do have it all throughout. We would love for you to be a part of this and or just catch the recording. We did this a few months ago with some other teams, and even the recording turned out amazing. If you want to catch some real life examples of what this is looking like at Microsoft, or what we call Customer Zero. So I will post the sign up there in the chat. And then coming up in a few months, in May, there is a group of us who are joining together at the largest community conference that Microsoft offers in Vegas on May 6th through the 8th. And this year, we're actually going to do a communications track that is really focused on all of you, where we're going to have experts and customers sharing their stories and learning from each other, as well as learning from the different best practices. Of course, opportunities for you all to ask questions and go deep. We are so excited about this. So this is coming soon. So if there's any possibility you could join us in person, we would love to meet you there. We'd love to see you there, and we'd love to share your stories as well. So feel free to join us. Dan just popped the link in the chat, and we're really, really excited about what's to come in May. And then just in case, if you're just joining us and you're trying to figure out what does this look like or where am I at, you're actually in week 3. And if you missed the first 2 sessions, we have those on demand and we have the recordings available. The first week was all about admin and governance. So a real deep dive into setting up group architecture, community, roles, responsibilities. Week 2 was a couple weeks ago, and we really talked about community structures, official communities, and diving in deep into expertise and knowledge and what that could look like in the role of communities. And then this week, of course, we have for you all as corporate communicators, coming up is training and adoption. And then in week 5 and week 6, I want to call this out in particular because we will zoom past this very briefly today because there is so much more in depth that we could do. And we just cannot do it enough justice in this masterclass. So we'll have an entire deep dive session about live events and Ask Me Anything's coming up in a couple of weeks, as well as an analytics session. And if you know anything about me, I love, love, love learning about the data. So that is going to be also an incredible session for you to kind of really get your hands dirty with some of the analytics that we provide and share. All right. Before I kick it off to Dan, I do want to say we are going to have a few polls throughout this. I would love for you all to just use the Q&A across the top of Teams, especially with so many folks on the line. It's really important for us to just make sure that we're answering your questions all throughout. And then also we'll use those questions to kind of pull back into the blog and our support materials as well to make sure that we continue to create clarity for all of you as well. And then finally, before before I kick it off, will you all just give us a little bit of reaction, a little bit of Teams love? I just want to make sure you know where the reaction button is versus the raise hand button. So if you're like me, you probably tried to hit the heart and ended up clicking the raise hand button instead. So if you do see something you like or something that's interesting, feel free to give our presenters a little bit of reactions and love as you kind of are listening and hearing the different perspectives. All right, with that, take it away, Dan.
All right, thank you, Allison. And you're able to hear me okay?
All good. Yep.
Wonderful. Well, greetings, everyone. My name is Dan Holm. I'm a Principal Group Product Manager on the Engage team. I'm joined by several of my peers who you'll meet throughout this session today. And on behalf of the entire Engage team and of Microsoft, I'd like to say welcome and thank you for being here today. Thank you for being a Microsoft customer. Thank you for exploring and or already using Viva Engage as a modern communications platform for your organization. Thank you for the faith you've put in us and our product over the years, particularly those of you who've been on the journey since the days of Yammer. And we really value you and your feedback. You are why we do what we do. And we look forward to hearing what you think about what you learned today and your questions and feedback. And we look forward to an ongoing relationship with you after today. So we're here today to talk about Viva Engage, of course. And Viva Engage, and let me do a little bit of level setting for those of you who are maybe newer to Engage, particularly as a communications platform. Viva Engage is the tool in Microsoft 365 that allows you to connect people across business silos, across working groups, across organizations, to connect people with leaders, coworkers, news, and knowledge. And through that connection, to drive important business outcomes like communications, and to use that connective fabric to activate employees to really lean in and contribute their best selves, their talent, their ideas, and their expertise. As communicators, you have the unique opportunity to activate employees, and that's more important than ever because it helps you drive change, to make change in your organization. As you, I'm sure know, the data is crystal clear that regardless of what type of change you're trying to drive, engaged and energized employees make the difference. If you're trying to create a high-performing organization, if you're trying to improve retention, greater profitability and financial resilience, or improved outcomes such as customer satisfaction, across this spectrum, engaged employees improve productivity, retention, profitability, customer satisfaction, and every business KPI. Engaged and activated employees make the difference. Engage is the tool that allows you to drive that activation, and it does it in three major scenarios for your business, three major outcomes. The first is building communities, which themselves can support communications and other business objectives. This is the heart and soul of Viva Engage and has been since the days of Yammer. But particularly in recent years, we've invested hugely in reach from Engage into Teams and Outlook and features that enable leaders and communicators to leverage Engage as a tool to reach and engage employees at scale and to listen and respond to those employees. Additionally, we've added tons of capabilities that make it easier than ever to harness the collective knowledge of your organization by bringing people together in communities of practice, sharing knowledge, answers, and ideas, and capturing that knowledge so that it can be reused by search and Copilot to accelerate the velocity of knowledge within your organization. So, communications, community building, and knowledge sharing are the three hero outcomes that you can use Viva Engage to achieve within your organization. And importantly, Viva Engage achieves these outcomes by reaching across Outlook and Teams. If there's only one thing you leave with today, I hope it's an understanding that what happens in Viva Engage doesn't stay in Viva Engage. Your communications will reach people in the tools where they work, in Outlook, in Teams, in SharePoint, in Viva Connections, and more. And so you don't have to drive users to go to somewhere new, to go to Viva Engage to achieve your goal as communicators. And we'll see lots of examples of that. Viva Engage reaches people across devices with great experiences on web and iOS and Android. And in fact, we have now 2 opportunities on mobile to reach your mobile and frontline workers. The standalone Viva Engage app on iOS and Android, and a new native integration into the Teams mobile app, which brings a first-class, rich, delightful, and very fast experience for Engage inside of Teams. And Engage reaches people across organizations. So for those of you who may have more complex organizations, holding companies, conglomerates, or companies that have gone through mergers and acquisitions and therefore may have more than one tenant, Engage allows you to blur the boundaries of your internal organizations and reach everyone. As you'll see throughout today and throughout this entire masterclass series, all of these scenarios are accelerated by Copilot, AI, and advanced analytics. And customers choose to build their platform on Engage partly because Engage itself is built on Microsoft 365, giving you the enterprise security, privacy, and compliance controls that you need for your trusted enterprise scale communications. So as we go through today, we're going to be looking at capabilities primarily focused on that first scenario, enabling leaders and communicators to reach, engage, and listen at scale. You're going to see a huge number of capabilities that are actually available to you right now, today, inside as a Microsoft 365 customer. We will often refer to those capabilities as seeded. It means it's already there for you. Your Microsoft 365 license includes a huge number of these capabilities. But you'll also be introduced to features that are available to Viva customers and Copilot customers. We'll refer to these features as premium capabilities, and we'll be sure to call out which is which. You'll see us use that Viva icon to indicate when something requires additional licensing. If ever you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them in chat, or better yet, in the Q&A tab, and our team will clarify. But we've done a good job of calling out which features are premium in this presentation, so we'll call those out for you. But you're going to be able to drive a huge number out of scenarios just with the Microsoft 365 license as well. So with all that said, let's dive into our first scenario, communications. And let's start by focusing on you, the communicators. And communicators are critical in today's fast-changing environment because communicators are change makers. You're the ones who have the capability to inform and inspire employees and spark them into action toward the change you're trying to drive. Now, throughout today, we'll use the transformation to the age of AI and copilots as an example of a type of change. But what we'll learn applies to any type of change you're trying to drive. Responding to a market disruption, navigating mergers and acquisitions or changes in leadership, driving cultural initiatives, launching new products, or any other sort of change. You are the people who make the change in your organization. And you do it by communicating with and engaging your employees. Now, there's been a lot of shift in both the industry and the tools of communications and in your audience that you're trying to reach. And it's important to recognize some of the major trends that are driving those shifts. First, the workforce. The workforce today is younger and comes into the organization accustomed to a certain modality of communication that they've learned from consumer social media. Today's workforce expects communications to be tight and snackable. They appreciate being communicated to with images and video and not in voluminous amounts of text. And they expect to have a voice, to be part of a conversation, to be communicated with, not communicated at. And throughout the industry, Copilot, AI, and advanced analytics are both accelerating communications workflows and unlocking new capabilities to do so at scale and to measure and improve effectiveness. So these shifts mean that the traditional modalities of communications inside of an organization are no longer sufficient. Many of us have organizations that have relied on email and intranets to drive communications. And while those two platforms are still fundamental pieces of your modern communication strategy, they're not sufficient to reach your workforce and to drive change in the way that you need in today's environment. What do I mean by that? Well, first, communications have evolved from being one-way communications to being multi-directional, from talking at our audience to talking with our audience. The workforce expects that, and that signal back from our audience helps us understand not just are they seeing our messages, but is the message landing well? Do they understand it? Do they have questions? And how do they feel about that message? And what's the next step we should be taking as communicators? In the past, we used to treat email and internet and perhaps Teams and other applications as separate channels through which certain types of communications were sent. That doesn't serve today's workforce, which is busy and overwhelmed with the work they're trying to get done on a day-to-day basis. So we need to shift from having destinations that people go to catch up to instead reaching them in the flow of the work in the applications they're using every day, particularly Teams and Outlook. Certainly one at the top of mind for customers that we speak with is communications overload. The audiences are simply receiving too many communications. Communicators will refer to this as noise and interruption, where communications are disrupting people's flow of work when the communication may not warrant that kind of urgency and attention. Viva Engage is unique in the suite of communications tools, particularly in Microsoft 365, in that it allows you to reach people at multiple speeds so that urgent need-to-know information can reach people now, but information that's important but less urgent can be consumed at the pace of the audience rather than of the communicator. And we'll see how that lights up to give you a new spectrum of tools to balance urgency with notification and interruption. As I mentioned earlier, text-heavy content is no longer the most effective way to land your message. Snackable content and particularly multimedia content, video and images are the effective new ways to reach and engage today's workforce. And finally, in the past, communications were generally top-down, coming from official sanctioned organizational news channels and top leaders in an organization. Today, we see more of a multi-voice communications cascade where a top leader or an organizational news channel may start a message, but then it is re-amplified and reinforced by leaders and managers and influencers within your organization. This may sound a lot like how social media approaches landing messages through influencers. And in fact, we'll make an argument that in your organization, your leaders and your managers are the best influencers you have. And we'll show you how to activate them and enable them to amplify and cascade your message. So a lot has shifted in communication. And we need tools that allow us to modernize our communication strategy to be multi-directional, multi-channel, multi-speed, multimedia, and multi-voice. Now, that sounds like a lot of concepts, particularly for those of you who are in organizations that are still leveraging traditional communications modalities. So let me take a moment to paint the art of the possible. Our first demo will share how you can, in fact, reach and engage your audience across the applications that they use every day and amplify communications through leaders and influencers. In this particular example, we'll visit Contoso, our sample company, which is in the process of launching Copilot. The change they're trying to drive is awareness, skilling, and enthusiasm about applying AI to accelerate work and transform the workplace. Megan is our communicator at Contoso, and she is about to pull the trigger on the announcement that launches the general availability of Copilot within Contoso. So she is going to the company news and events channel, and she's going to share a message. But she knows that not everyone really recognizes Megan. She is a communicator, but she can drive greater impact by posting on behalf of Nestor, who is the director of technology and who is a well-known face within the organization. So Megan goes to the company news and events channel and posts on behalf of Nestor. She creates a post with a short snackable message, a clear call to action, and she adds a video because images and video drive between double and 9x the engagement on a post. She makes this post an announcement to ensure it reaches everyone in the organization, and she chooses to send both Teams and email messages right away. She could save or schedule this post if she wanted to, but she's going to go ahead and post it right away. And that message is now available in that employee news and company news and events community, and we can see the video playing in line. Now, people could come to this community and see this communication, very much like they might go to an intranet and see a communication. But as I mentioned to you, one of the things that's unique about Engage is that people don't have to come to Engage to see this communication. The communication will reach them across the applications where they work. Let's see how that looks. Adele is a Teams user. She's in a chat with Alex, and she gets a notification of the announcement. She clicks the notification, and right there in the Teams activity feed, she sees the announcement in full fidelity. She's able to view the video, react, and reply all within Microsoft Teams. She's able to post and go right back to the flow of her work with minimal interruption and no context shifting. Now, Alex is an Outlook user, so he receives the announcement in his inbox. He, like Adele, is able to view the announcement in full fidelity and even watch the video in Outlook without leaving his inbox. He reacts to it, and he reads Adele's comment. He agrees with Adele. In fact, he wants to express his support with one of our extended reactions, and he adds his commentary about his excitement about Copilot. Again, all of this in Outlook without leaving the flow of his work. Now, one thing I want to call out here is the difference between this and traditional email-based communications. In an organization that was using only email to announce the launch of Copilot, we all know the first thing they would do is turn off reply all, because that reply stream generates email noise for everyone on the thread. That's one of the things that's different about Viva Engage. You'll notice in Alex's inbox, he has only one message. Even though Adele has already reacted and replied, there is still only one message carrying that announcement and the entire conversation thread with it. So you are allowed to engage and respond and reply to communications because you're not generating email notifications for everyone else in the organization. Now, another difference with Engage is that it's a social platform. So it allows people to add their own color and commentary and voice to the communication. Let's jump over to Patty. Now, Patty is the leader of Contoso. She's the chief executive officer. And she knows that when a leader engages in a conversation, it means a lot to employees. So she sees the notification in her inbox as well. She adds her thanks as a reaction and as a comment. She thanks Nestor at mentioning him for his participation and hard work of his team on the launch of Copilot. This at mention generates a notification for Nestor. So he, who is sitting in Teams, Nestor is in Teams, he gets an activity bell notification that tells him Patty actually mentioned him. This kind of direct leader engagement will drive Nestor and other employees to be significantly more engaged in the platform for weeks into the future. Our data shows that when a leader engages with a conversation, the employees involved will be up between 2 and 5 times more engaged for the coming weeks. Now we're back to Patty. There's one more thing that Patty is going to do. She's going to amplify this message. This message is pretty straightforward. It says Copilot is available, and here's how you can learn more about Copilot. Patty wants to ensure that the organization understands how important it is to the journey of the organization and to the objectives it's trying to achieve. So she wants to reshare this commentary to her storyline. Now, Storyline in Engage is like LinkedIn. It's a place where individuals can share with coworkers and followers across the organization. And so Patty has reshared that announcement onto her storyline, adding her own perspective as a CEO to drive energy and clarity as to the importance of this particular effort. This is our first example of a leader cascading communications and wrapping that communication in relevance and urgency. Closing the loop, let's return to Megan. Megan is our communicator. She's the one who kicked off this announcement, and she's back in the company news and events community, and she's able to see the new engagement on this post all in one place, and it pulls together the conversation regardless of whether employees were in Teams or Outlook. She's able to go into conversation analytics to see what channels people are reacting in and to begin to get insights. Now, of course, it's early in the life of this particular announcement. And as more people engage with the announcement, it will be harder for Megan to stay on top of all the reactions and replies. So AI will actually kick in to evaluate sentiment and themes on the conversation. So even a busy conversation with hundreds or thousands of replies can be managed by a single communicator because AI will help bubble up the most important sentiment and themes in the reply thread. So that is a first view at the art of the possible of using a social tool to drive communications. And remember, it was only Megan who had to use Viva Engage. Everyone else was reached in Teams and Outlook in the flow of their work. So let's turn our attention to the features that we'll be covering in depth today. Viva Engage has a number of features that enable leaders and communicators to reach and engage at scale, to inform and inspire their audiences, to spark people into action, to participate toward shared objectives, to listen and learn, to understand how to help people move forward more effectively, and to measure and improve performance as leaders and communicators. We're going to look at a number of features, starting with features that help you establish your infrastructure, and then features that allow people to share information, spark action with social campaigns and live events, listen and learn with Ask Me Anything events, and measure and improve effectiveness with analytics and coaching. We'll start with defining communications roles and leadership and audiences. And to do that, I'm going to pass the baton to my friend and colleague, Lauren.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. I am also a group product manager on the Engage team. Super happy to be with all of you. And to kick off really the next set of demos, like Dan mentioned, focused on 3 foundational roles that work together in harmony to deliver modern comms at scale: delegates, corp comms, and leaders. Configuring these roles in Engage is the first step to set your comms strategies up for success, and really a key unlock for all the comms features that we're going to cover in detail through today's session. So let's go ahead and dive in. Awesome. So leveraging delegate managers and delegates to action on your behalf within Engage is an effective way to scale. You know, we all have a really hard time in our own way staying on top of everything that needs to be done and communicated. We know it's not easy. So having people working together through delegation has clear multiplication effects. At Microsoft, leaders with associated delegates result in 25% more leader posts. Any user can assign a delegate, but for the purpose of this masterclass, I'll focus on those delegate-leader relationships. For this first demo, we will show how the CEO, Patty, which Stan just introduced, can assign Megan as a delegate manager to her team. I think if you can restart, I got cut off, Dan, if you don't mind replaying that demo. Thank you. Okay, so Patty navigates to her 3-dot menu, selects delegate management. She's looking to add Megan, so types in Megan's name under add delegates, sees her in auto suggest. She then chooses the delegate manager role for Megan. Once added, she also decides to give Megan permissions to her storyline, which includes access to her Engage OneDrive folder. And voila, just like that, it's done. Patty now has Megan added to her delegate team. Now, before we play the next demo, I did want to say that we've heard a lot of feedback from customers that sometimes it's too big of a lift for someone like Patty, a CEO, to be the one who's actually assigning the delegates. So we recently shipped a new workflow that allows anyone to request to be someone's delegate with approval in just 2 clicks. So I'm going to show you this exact same scenario, but through a different lens. We're going to see Megan requesting to Patty to become a member of her delegate team. So in this next demo, we see from Megan going to the same delegate management, requesting a delegate role to Patty for that same delegate manager position and storyline access. She can send the request and off it goes. You see the pending state in Megan's view for that request to Patty. Now let's see what it looks like on the other end. Patty sees a very simple message in her inbox detailing the request from Megan. She hits manage request, just 1 click, gives it a review, and approves. It's that easy. Awesome. So to recap, there are 2 types of delegates: the basic delegates who focus on those on behalf of actions, posting, replying, and closing conversations. And then there's the delegate managers who you saw hero in these past demos, who have added capabilities to manage the delegate team and support their leaders. We also want to highlight a couple best practices for you to keep in mind while you're getting things set up. Plan to have at least 1 delegate manager, which includes the premium value to see a leader's audience and their analytics. And generally, a leader's delegates should have storyline access. So that's that toggle you saw. By default, a delegate can act on behalf of within communities. The storyline toggle allows the delegate to also create posts and send announcements on behalf of the leader from their storyline, which is a really common case at Microsoft. And one quick call out, that little circle here you see on the slide, we do have this as a premium feature, so storyline on behalf of. In response to customer feedback, we're shifting to make this premium to have a more consistent end-to-end delegate experience for our customers. So stay tuned for more on this update.
Sorry, Lauren, just a quick correction. We're working to make this seated, so it will be available to all Microsoft 365 customers.
I flipped it. I apologize. It's right now premium, and we're going to make it seated to align communities and storyline to both be seated. Thank you, Dan. Awesome. And this last slide here is just a recap of the great onboarding flow that really streamlines the process of getting delegates assigned. This will be in the deck for you to reference later. Awesome. So now let's move on to corporate communicators. As you've heard us say, Engage is a powerful organizational comms tool. You want to just go back one, Dan? Awesome. Engage is a powerful organizational comms tool. And if we were honest, finding healthy engagement doesn't happen by accident. It's often a team of communicators, all of you on this call, who are carefully working together to craft, coordinate, and execute comms strategies across all levels of your organization. And this is really where the Engage Corp Comm role enters into the equation, which unlocks the creation and management of official campaigns, leaders and audience definition, and management of the content across an organization, supported by rich analytics along the way. I'm now going to show you how an Engage admin can first set up the Corp Comm role through the Admin Center. Okay. In this scenario, you see Megan. She's an Engage admin, and she navigates to her Admin Center. She clicks on corporate communicators, sees an existing list, adds a new user. She's looking to add Lydia, clicks her, save, done. Lydia is now a corporate communicator in the Engage network. To recap, there are a ton of superpowers available to Corp Comms and Engage. I'm about to cover leaders and audiences next, so hang tight for just one sec. I did want to highlight some tips to help communicators manage and boost comms. For scheduling and drafting posts, though available for all users with a premium license, it's a great tool that helps Corp Comms folks get ahead of what's next. Second, marking a community as official gives a community a special checkmark and elevated discovery. This is often used for communities Corp Comms really have their hands in. So meaning this community is officially sponsored by the network. The employee news and events community at Microsoft is a great example of this. Right now as a company, we are celebrating being 50 years old, and it's been really fun to watch all of the comms within that community celebrating this big moment for us. And then featuring a conversation gives a post priority treatment in feeds. Comms folks often use this when they want to boost the chance of employees seeing a post without the additional notifications that come with announcements. Sometimes you don't need that big hammer. Content moderation is also key to the Corp Comm rule, which was covered in detail during a previous masterclass. We are especially excited about the AI-backed theme monitoring coming your way soon, which enables you as communicators to define themes you want to proactively track, see all conversations attached to those themes, then summarized in one place with a set of moderation actions there one click away. The next bucket of premium value, official campaigns and analytics, are areas Najla and Allison will go deep on next, so I won't dive in now. And finally, I do want to note that once a Corp Comm is assigned, they can subsequently assign other Corp Comms and Engage, taking that reliance off of the Engage admins. So we hope this helps you paint a high-level picture of the Corp Comms role for you. And again, much more to come. Awesome. So last and maybe most importantly is the leader role available through our Engage premium license, which sets leaders up to effectively share vision, drive change, and shape culture across all employees. These leaders can be assigned audiences, which helps target who sees what they're posting, elevating their comms through feeds and notifications, ultimately making it easier for employees to stay on top of the voices that matter most to them. Now, I will take you through the assignment of the leader role and their audience, where we will see Megan. In this case, she is either an Engage admin or a Corp Comm. She navigates to her admin center, clicks feature management, then leader identification, existing leaders showing, easy to add a leader. In this case, she's looking to add Nestor, who is intelligently suggested. She clicks add. We can set the entire organization as Nestor's audience, or we can configure a specific audience by any Enter ID group, including teams, communities, and email distribution lists. This basically means you can take the groups you're already using to communicate to an audience by email, and in just a few clicks, enable leaders to reach and engage that same group now within Engage. It's also worth mentioning, we recently shipped the ability to set multiple audiences for a leader, so definitely check that out. Great. So Engage has a ton of premium value to accelerate leader reach and engagement. I demoed leader and audience setup. Dan will talk more soon about how announcements are an effective way to reach employees across platforms. He will also talk about Leadership Corner, which has a leader-focused feed and related content like leader-hosted events. And just one more thing before I wrap up my section. Najla, who's one of our colleagues presenting in a later section, has also been heading up something really cool, a communications dashboard that streamlines modern comm workflows all in one place, making it easier than ever to coordinate, execute, and measure your comms effectiveness across a comms team. So check out a first look in our Engage Customer Connection community with more announcements on this great experience coming soon. So that's it for me, introing delegates, corp comms, and leaders with audiences as specialized roles in Engage, including how to set them up so you can get started on your comms journey and build that healthy engagement flywheel. Welcome any questions and all the feedback you have. You see here a recipe card with resources to learn more. This will be repeated at the end of every section. So when you're back at your day job and trying to figure out how to, implement these things we've been talking about, please use this as a resource to reference back. Handing it back to you, Dan. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren. And sorry for the slide navigation problems. My computer decided to change slides just when I move my mouse, not even clicking. So I apologize.
You're fine. we managed. It was great.
You're a pro. Thanks so much, Lauren. So now that we have our environment established, we're going to turn to the scenarios that allow leaders and communicators to reach and engage employees, starting with sending news and announcements. And give me 1 second. I have to cough. Excuse me. So we're going to start with news and announcements, a deeper look at how exactly updates and information can reach people across Outlook, Teams, and Viva. We saw an actual demo earlier, so rather than repeating a demo, we're going to do a quick instant replay to call out the key elements of that demo that make this possible. You might remember Megan shared an announcement announcing the availability of Copilot within Contoso, kicking off that change the organization is trying to make. She did it in the company news and events community, which is in fact the all company community renamed and rebranded. That community has been restricted so that not everyone can share these communications, but rather only communicators can start new threads. Everyone can react and reply, as we saw, but this becomes a true organization-wide communications channel. Megan posted on behalf of Nestor, and we've now seen how Nestor can assign Megan as a delegate. Megan added a video because images and video increase engagement. And importantly, she made this message an announcement to ensure that it reaches everyone in the organization across Teams and Outlook. Now, this is the recipe card. Let's talk through each element. The all company community is a community you already have in Viva Engage. It's there by default. And it traditionally has been used as a company water cooler where everyone can come together, anyone can share and start a conversation or a thread. And that was very effective in the early days of Yammer. But as organizations became busier and noisier and change has accelerated over the past 10 or 15 years, that all company community has proven to be in many organizations quite noisy. So the thing to know about this community is that it includes every user in your organization by default. It's dynamically managed and people cannot leave. So they're captive within this audience of this community that addresses all employees. So rather than let it be a water cooler, we suggest that you turn it into a communications channel to reach and engage everyone intentionally. Rename and rebrand all company to create a company-wide news and events channel, mark it as an official community, and importantly, restrict the community so that only communicators who would be the admins of that community can start threads. That's all it takes to create a company-wide communications channel with Engage. And then once you have that channel, you can use announcements to send need-to-know urgent information that reaches people across Outlook and Teams, and you can share posts that are less urgent, and people will still be able to catch up with that information through digests and feeds. So here's the recipe card with the link to all the resources so that you can put this into action in your organization. Now, while all company allows you to reach and engage everyone, In many situations, communications are more targeted. You're trying to reach a segment of your employee population. So, sorry, taking a step back. The second part of the demo we saw was how that message reached people across Teams and Outlook. So just a quick recap. Teams users received the announcement in their activity feed. Outlook users receive announcements in their inbox. The content renders richly, including images and video. The audience can engage with reactions and replies. And as I pointed out in the demo, that additional engagement does not generate additional emails. So you're not only allowed to encourage participation, but participation is desired. At Microsoft, we have a company, all-company communications community set up in exactly this way. We call it Employee News and Events, and it's a community that is the source of company news and information from leaders and communicators across the organization. Membership is managed dynamically, so it includes all Microsoft FTEs, and it's restricted, so only the top communicators in the organization can start threads. And when a leader like Amy Silverman here in the screenshot wants to share an important communication with the entire organization, she or her delegate are made temporary admins of the community so that they can post for that one occasion. And announcements are used to share the most important messages regarding our business and our culture, but they're used sparingly, knowing that announcements do, in fact, interrupt people in the flow of their work. Here's some examples of the kinds of content we share through our employee news and events community. We highlight key moments and key news and business moments. We celebrate D&I and reinforce our culture, and we encourage people to participate in company events such as our campaigns and our town halls. Now, let's turn our attention to how you can use Engage to target more segmented audiences within your organization. All company is everyone. What if you want to reach a specific division, department, role, or location? To support that, you create a community for that audience. So you might create a community based on a division or department, like sales, or a location, like Canada, or a job role or workforce, like your frontline workers. So you can create communities for those specific audiences and use those communities to target announcements and posts at that audience. As a best practice, mark those communities as official because they're generally going to be sanctioned and perhaps even managed by communications professionals within your organization. And importantly, consider configuring these communities as private communities. That allows you to target communications without creating noise outside of the segment. What do I mean by that? Imagine you have a community for sales and a community for research and development. Copilot has just been launched and everyone has seen the announcement from Megan, but now we want leaders to cascade that messaging. By having a private community for sales, the sales leader can cascade that message into the sales community and make it relevant and urgent for the sales membership without causing noise for people over in research and development. They won't see a message being sent to a private community that they don't belong to. And similarly, the R&D leader can cascade that message to her audience without causing noise outside of her segment. So these organizational communities are generally best created as private communities. Now, with these communities, you're often going to want to assign membership based on user attributes. So for example, the sales community, that sales channel, you will want to include all salespeople. One way to do this is using dynamic groups in Entra ID. This is something your IT organization can help you do. And we see an example on this screen of creating the sales community using the department attribute of employee profiles. So anyone whose department is sales is automatically made a member of this community. If someone enters, they're joined automatically. If someone leaves sales, they're removed automatically. And it just makes membership a set it and forget it experience. There's other tools you can use to manage membership. Microsoft has published a tool called Group Membership Management on GitHub. And there's also many third-party partners who provide high-quality group membership management tools. In the end, because communities, audiences, and communities and audiences are based on Entra ID groups, Anything that helps you or your IT organization manage group membership will help you manage those communications channels. Now, importantly, let's talk about the journey organizations take who are newer to Engage. It may seem a little strange that you set up a communications channel using a community, but that's because at the beginning, it might be just about reaching and engaging those salespeople so that communicators have a place they can go and share a post or announcement for a defined audience. But that community then creates a place where over time, the members can come and start participating and contributing themselves, sharing knowledge, joining events, and engaging with each other, becoming what you might call a real community. So there's a maturity journey that can take these communications channels into being human communities of engagement. Here's the recipe card with the resources for you. And again, we'll give you all of these in the slides. To give you an example of how Microsoft has approached building communities for segments, let's look at Microsoft UK. Microsoft UK is itself a segment, and they wanted to segment employees within their own segment. So they determined the types of attributes they would want to use to target employees, their location, the organization they're in, the department they're in, their job function. And they looked at the types of messaging that they would want to send to people, messaging about performance, benefits, culture, and morale. They then used this to determine a community structure that best supported the several thousand employees of Microsoft UK. They came up with 3 regional communities, several office locations, segments, and communities to support D&I and employee resource groups in the UK. Now, this may seem like a lot of communities to create for an organization of just a couple thousand people, but remember that any one employee will only belong in a subset of these. I, as a UK employee, might be in several leaders' audiences, belong to 2 regional communities, and a single office location, and a single business segment. But by doing this, it gave them incredible flexibility in how they can target messages. And again, remember, this isn't about people going to Engage and finding these communities. By simply being a member of these communities, the communications that are being pushed through the communities are reaching people in Teams and Outlook. And in fact, at Microsoft, more than 75% of messages from Engage are read not in Engage, but in Outlook and Teams. So we've seen news and announcements coming from channels backed by communities, reaching groups of people. Now let's add the individual voice of the leader to the picture, seeing how Storyline can allow leaders to share vision, updates, and perspectives, amplify culture and values, and humanize leadership. Storyline, remember, is like LinkedIn within the organization. It's a place where you can go to share updates and perspectives and knowledge with your peers, with coworkers, and with followers across the organization. And whatever you post on your Storyline is technically accessible by anyone in the organization. So you don't have to build a followership to share on your Storyline. What you share might be valuable to someone on the other side of the organization. But leaders get a superpower, which is an audience for their Storyline. Lauren showed you how that audience is defined, and that audience ensures that posts that a leader makes on their Storyline are very likely to reach their audience in the flow of their work. So it basically defines the reach of the leader's Storyline. Let's take a look at an example. We'll start with a demo here. And we're going to visit Patty. Remember, Patty is the CEO, the leader of Contoso, and she and Megan, our communicator, are working together on an announcement of a upcoming promotion, promoting Lydia Holloway to the new Chief Product Officer. We're drafting this in Teams in a loop component, and it's just about time for Megan to post this announcement on Patty's Storyline. Now, before we see the actual flow, I want to show you something that many of you will not have seen before because it's a brand new capability that's just about entering public preview, and that is Viva Engage Storyline natively in Teams. So what you're seeing here is Megan's Teams, and she has a chat with Patty. And as you're certainly familiar with, there's a chat tab. But right next to that chat tab is a storyline tab, which allows Megan to check in on what Patty has posted on her storyline. It lets you learn more about the people you're chatting with. So we can see the updates and perspectives and experiences and announcements that Patty has made on her storyline. So with the new native integration in Teams, every chat that's one-on-one, you will see your peers' storyline and they will see yours. Now, this integration becomes particularly useful in delegate situations because of the proximity of chat and collaboration. So we're going to our workflow here. Megan and Patty have been working on this draft announcement in a loop component, and it's time for Megan to copy and paste this content into Patty's storyline. So she copies, she goes to Patty's storyline, and she creates a new type of post called an article. And articles are posts that have richer formatting and inline media. So we're able to create a bold heading for the article. We're able to put a picture in the middle of the text, and we're able to use more advanced formatting like paragraph and heading formats, or in this case, a pull quote format. So Megan makes this post look fantastic. Now she gets distracted, and so rather than post it, one more thing she's going to do. She's going to make it an announcement. Announcements from leaders' storylines can reach the audience specified by the lead. So we're going to send this to everyone at Contoso. Remember that a leader can have everyone or can have specific audiences. And Megan can also choose which channels the announcement goes out through. Does it go through Teams and/or Outlook? With those choices made, she saves it as a draft because someone's knocking at her door and she needs to pay attention to another task. When she's finished with that task, she's able to go to Patty's storyline, go to the drafts, and see the draft of the announcement. She clicks edit, makes her final touches to the article, and previews it to make sure she knows how it's going to look both in feeds, checking to make sure the right information is above the fold, and in the full article view. So she can have confidence in how her post is going to look across feeds and more immersive reading experiences. She's going to schedule this post to align with the promotion timing of Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. And this is a premium feature to be able to schedule posts to land at the right time. Once she's done that, I don't want to make you wait too long, so we're going to go ahead and click post now and send that announcement off. Of course, in your world, it's already Tuesday morning. So that post is now on Patty's storyline. Looks like there we go. So we can see that post on her storyline, and from her storyline, we can jump into the full article view. So any employee at Contoso could go to Patty's storyline and see this announcement. But again, the magic of Engage is this announcement will reach Patty's audience in the apps where they work. This part should look fairly familiar to you. We're going to visit Adele, who's our Teams user. Adele sees a bell notification in her Teams activity, sees the announcement, is able to engage with it in a way that looks very native to Teams. So any Teams user will not even notice that this is really coming from Engage. The communicators can keep that as their little secret. So she's able to engage with that announcement and congratulate Lydia and express her appreciation for working with Lydia in the past. She's able to do that and then get right back to the flow of her work inside of Teams. Alex is our Outlook user, and he receives the announcement in Outlook. So he scans the announcement, is excited to hear about Lydia's promotion, and he wants to react to the post, but also share his enthusiasm, this time, instead of with text, with a GIF. So he goes ahead and finds a GIF that expresses congratulations. Alex is a fan of the television show Friends, so he adds this particular GIF, and he's expressed himself visually without using words. So, instant replay of what we saw here. Megan created an article on behalf of Patty. The article supports rich formatting and inline media. Today, you can put images inline, videos show up as an attachment, but very soon we'll be adding support for inline videos and GIFs as well. And we made that, and Megan made that post an announcement so that it reaches Patty's audience. Now, with storyline announcements, you get to pick the audience you're trying to reach based on the audiences you've configured, as Lauren showed you earlier. And you get to pick the communications channels that announcement will go over. So you can decide how interruptive you want to be, how urgent it is that it meets people in Teams or in email. And we saw that the announcement reached end users in the applications they use, in Teams Activity, in the Outlook inbox, where, by the way, Patty shows up as the sender of the announcement. I didn't point that out in the demo, but it's important to see that the announcement comes from, appears to come from Patty. Content renders richly, including inline images and video. The audience can engage with reactions and replies. And once again, that additional engagement doesn't generate more emails. So let's start building towards a recipe for using storylines to empower leaders to share, to have their own channel for sharing vision, updates, and perspectives. Identify leaders and audiences. Those steps were covered by Lauren. Send urgent updates as announcements and less urgent updates as posts. Share snackable content. Today's workforce responds better to short, sweet content and particularly multimedia content. And importantly, particularly with Storyline, use the authentic and personal voice of the leader. That is more effective and it's what employees want to hear. We saw an example of an article. And if you think about articles on Storyline, they basically give the leader a blogging capability. So if you're looking to support leader blogging, articles on Storylines is exactly how you do that. And as Allison will show you later, Storyline and Audience Analytics give you deep insights into the effectiveness of this communications channel that you've established for your leader. Now, your leaders are the most important influencers in your organization. They can cascade messages to add context, relevance, and urgency. And so as you're modernizing your communication strategy, think about how you can use that concept of influencers from consumer social media to cascade messages within your organization. There's a recipe card for you with all the instructions for how to achieve this in your organization. And let's take a quick look at how we do it at Microsoft. At Microsoft, many of our leaders use their storyline exactly as we've shown you here. And the content that goes on the storyline is often media rich. You can see 2 of the 3 examples on this slide have media included. And in the case of the first column, Satya's team uses his storyline to amplify content they are already producing for other purposes. For example, a few months ago, Satya went to India and conducted a town hall meeting, which was recorded. And that was available to the audience in the Indian subsidiary, but they wanted to scale the awareness of what Satya shared to the rest of the organization. So they simply took a clip of that video and shared it on Satya's storyline. And you can see that message was seen by nearly 150,000 people. So it really scaled the impact of the content they had already created for the Indian town hall. Several leaders at Microsoft use their storyline to share weekly updates, to work out loud, to share top of mind, and to amplify business and cultural objectives. And leaders use their storylines to position their thought leadership within the organization. Microsoft is a big believer in this new cascade, where announcements might be posted by organizational news sources like Employee News and Events, to reach everyone, but then is reshared into targeted audiences through leader storylines or communities. As an example of that, in July, we kicked off our current fiscal year. Satya created a post that, as you can see, was seen by 170,000 people, kicking off the fiscal year. And then his leadership team cascaded the message into their organizations. So Rajesh Jha cascaded that message, reshared it on his storyline, adding context and relevance to his audience. And John Bunny, again, cascaded it even deeper into his customer support organization. So these things are put into action every day at Microsoft. Now, while posts and announcements on leaders' storylines will reach people in the flow of their work, we also have a destination where people can go to catch up with what's top of mind with their leaders and to engage with those leaders. It's called Leadership Corner. And Leadership Corner is an employee's personalized hub where they can see content from and engage with their leaders. Let's take a look at this in action here. We'll start with the demo. And in this demo, we are looking at Alex Wilbur, who's a marketing assistant. He goes to the leaders page in Engage, and there he sees a feed that is aggregating posts from his leaders based on the audiences he is in. So it's a personalized feed. And it includes leaders' posts, whether they're posting on their storylines or in communities. So this is a great way for him to catch up with what's important to his leadership. The feed can be filtered down to important conversations or even announcements. So if he's just been out of the office for a while, he can catch up with key announcements. And in the right rail, he can see ways to engage with his leaders through Ask Me Anything events and campaigns, both of which we will cover in just a few minutes. So this is a personalized feed that you see that shows your leaders based on the audiences you are in and the leaders you follow, aggregating your leaders' posts from storylines and communities that you have access to. The feed can be filtered, it shows campaigns and events, and there's also a directory of leaders, so you can see who your leaders are and leaders across the organization that you might want to follow. Now, this feature is on by default, but some customers wish to stage the deployment of Leadership Corner so that they can get leaders actually posting before asking employees to go to Leadership Corner or making that available to them. So if you want, you can manage the visibility of Leadership Corner from the Admin Center. So with that, we've seen how leaders can be given a platform to share vision, updates, and perspectives, and to humanize leadership. Now let's turn our attention to how those leaders and you as communicators can spark action through social campaigns and live events. And to cover social campaigns, I'd like to pass the baton to my colleague, Najla.
Thank you so much, Dan. Hi, everybody. My name is Najla, and I'm super excited to talk to you about social campaigns in Engage. Can we go to the next slide, please? Social campaigns are great engagement drivers, and their success largely depends on employee participation. These campaigns can help drive business goals, tap into the brain power of the organization, and more importantly, create a sense of belonging amongst employees. Next, we'll take a look at the campaign model. And the campaign model, before I dive into it, I would like to remind you that we've covered community-based campaigns in a previous masterclass. Those campaigns are scoped to a community and are created and managed by community admins. The campaigns that we're discussing today are global in nature. That means that they are available for anyone with the premium license to participate in. The campaign has a visual indicator, which is the official checkmark to distinguish it from community campaigns and regular hashtags. These campaigns are created by corporate communicators and network admins. So you need to be assigned those roles in order to access the campaign management dashboard and be able to create these types of campaigns. What's important here is that these campaigns are not scoped to a community. Like I said, they are global in nature. So if you create a post in any community or on a storyline and include the campaign hashtag, that content will be accumulated into the campaign feed. Note that we do honor the privacy laws with private communities, and that is that only if you post to a private community using the campaign hashtag, only users that are a member of that private community will see the post appear in the campaign feed. Another way to surface existing posts into a campaign is to comment on a post with the campaign hashtag. That will also drive that post into the campaign feed. And obviously these campaigns can be evergreen or they can be finite in time. So next, let's take a look at how to prepare for these campaigns, because preparation is key to success. You have to make some of the best practices that we have are to include leaders and influencers early on in the campaign planning so that you can have drafted content prepared. As Dan went through this already, having leaders make announcements, it boosts engagement and reach by a huge magnitude. So for campaigns, this also applies. And also you want to schedule posts throughout the duration of the campaign so that you keep that momentum going and maintain the engagement. As you're developing the social content strategy for the campaign, make sure that you have a very clear message that includes the goal of the campaign and an even more clear call to action, because that's what's going to drive employees for participation. And in this process, make sure to use the Copilot that's available to you, whether that's the Engage Copilot or the M365 Copilot. You can use that to come up with campaign ideas, catchy hashtags, and even pre-drafted content to relay to your leaders to post. So next, let's take a look at an example of a campaign that we had internally at Microsoft. And this was for the FY25 kickoff series. As you see, Satya posted about this. He has information about the campaign, but also a link to the event that he would like employees to participate in. So it's a very clear call to action. And as you can see, the reach is 168,000 people. So that's quite an impact. All right, now let's take a look at how to actually build these campaigns and roll them out. So to start with, we're going to take a look at Megan, who's been assigned the corporate communicator role. She is going to go on the More menu here, and she's going to go to Admin Center. From there, she's going to select Feature Management, click on Campaigns, and now she's presented with the campaign management dashboard that shows all active campaigns and other drafted campaigns. She's going to click on Create Campaign, enter the campaign hashtag, enter a description, and the option of adding organizers or selecting a default publisher. For example, if it's a praise campaign, she can select the default publisher for the campaign landing page to be a praise post, and a theme color to distinguish campaigns from each other. She's going to go ahead and click Create. And next, what that does is it puts the campaign, oh, here we go. Yeah, it puts the campaign in a draft state. And then this is the opportunity for the campaign manager to go and configure the campaign even further. So that is options like adding a cover photo, adding executive sponsors if they haven't already, and configuring a goal, because this goal tracker is a public visual that's available to everybody that participates in the campaign and is customizable to the unit of choice. So this really helps keep track against the campaign goal and also encourages participation. And there's a pinned location here for pinned resources, so you can link important information that is relevant to the campaign. And you can also have the option to add organizers, and that is people that are not assigned the corporate communicator role necessarily can help you manage this particular campaign. All right, so next, let's take a look at how Megan is going to have more impact in this already created and published campaign by posting something on behalf of her leader, Nestor. As Dan showed previously, this content was drafted, the campaign hashtag is present, and she's going to add a video to add more add the element of snackability to this communication. So once she's ready and she's happy with it, she's going to post. And then she takes a look and she says, perfect, now I have this Nestor appearing here in the campaign landing page, and that will hopefully boost engagement because he's a leader. Awesome. Okay, next let's take a look at Alex. So Alex is a regular user. He comes to his home feed and he discovers this Copilot campaign from the right rail in his, is this video playing? Yeah, perfect. In his home feed. So he scrolls down and he's looking at all these posts. These posts are, some of them are in communities, some of them are across storylines. And as he's scrolling through this, he gets inspired by the campaign and decides to scroll back up and follow the campaign and show his support by adding the campaign sash to his profile avatar. And as you can see now, when he goes to his profile page, that campaign sash appears on his avatar. And because he's inspired by the campaign, he also decides to create a post. So as you can see, he's going to start creating a post. The hashtag is pre-populated. One thing I'd like to note here is that this is the campaign landing page. And in the campaign landing page, the publisher will have the hashtag pre-populated. But this is not the only place that you can participate in the campaign. You can create a post in the home feed. You can go to any community or any storyline and use the autocomplete feature to autocomplete the hashtag of choice. All right, so next, let's take a look at this feature available to the campaign managers, and that is promoting the campaign to a specific audience. So after you take the draft campaign, you publish it, and it's getting engagement, but you want to boost it even further, maybe to a specific group, you can choose to promote the campaign to M365 and security groups that you have defined, and they will receive a notification in Engage about the campaign being live, and you have the option to also send them an email in their inbox to reach them there. All right, next, let's take a look at measuring the impact of the campaign. So it's very important to see how your campaign is doing, and we have analytics that capture that. In this page here, you can switch between the campaigns you're managing. You can look at date ranges that are available to you and basically see how far your campaign has gone. How many people has it reached? What type of engagement are you getting? How many comments? How many reactions? How many posts? And the number of followers, is it trending up, trending down, and then take appropriate action based on the information that's available to you and based on the goals that you had defined for the campaign. So to recap, the campaign landing page aggregates content across storylines and communities. All you need is the campaign hashtag to be in the message. The goal tracker is a great way to inspire people to participate in the campaign and track towards your goal. Adding executive sponsors and specifically getting leaders to make announcements about the campaign in a post is really helpful in building and boosting engagement. And if you need help to organize the campaign and manage the campaign, you can add other users that can help you with that. And promoting the campaign, which we just covered, really helps also extend reach and target the intended audience for the campaign. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Dan.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Najla. And one of the common questions we get from customers is, how do I drive engagement on Engage? We talked about the maturity journey of going from communications channels to real communities where everyone is participating. Campaigns are one of the best ways to drive this type of engagement because you're giving people permission and it actually is actively soliciting participation from them, telling them, I want to hear what you have to say about this particular business or cultural initiative. So if you want to spark engagement, campaigns are a great way to do it. If you want to achieve a business objective, campaigns are a great way to do that. So the best thing is to find the business objectives you're trying to drive and create some campaigns to support them. And if you're a customer who is currently a Microsoft 365 customer, while campaigns are a premium feature, they're also available as part of our trial, and we have trial subscriptions for the entire organization for 60 days. So you could actually experiment with a social campaign and see the impact that Engage can drive in the effort and the change you're trying to make. All right, so we've seen social campaigns. Let's spend a few moments on events and analytics. We're going to start with events, which we'll do as a 2-for-1 because there's 2 types of events that are very tightly related. Engage, since the pandemic, has had the capability for live events in a community. That live event is a broadcast with live and on-demand video and optional conversation along the side that is open Q&A, allowing people to share questions with the presenters and organizers and have discussions with each other. The broadcast itself is produced with Teams. It can be as simple as sharing webcams and microphones and screens, just like a Teams meeting, or it can be as slick and highly produced as a studio production that is streamed using RTMP. After the event, the video recording is available for people to catch up on demand, and analytics provide insights to organizers into attendee engagement. The other type of event we support in Engage, live events are seated. The other type of event we support, which is premium right now, are Ask Me Anything events. Ask Me Anything events allow leaders to listen and respond to employees. They're a place for questions and answers. In an Ask Me Anything event, any attendees can ask questions in advance and upvote each other's questions to give leaders and organizers signal as to what really matters. As customers have implemented these AMA events, we've learned that by enabling anonymous submission, which is an option, provides much higher quality questions. And if you're going to enable anonymous submission, you'll probably also appreciate the moderation feature that lets organizers determine which questions are published and visible to attendees. So you've got anonymous and moderation side by side, helping create a pool of questions that then can be upvoted to provide signal. After the event, analytics provide insights into reach and engagement. And over the coming months, content from these Ask Me Anything events will be available in my workplace search and Copilot, meaning a question that was answered in an AMA will be available to someone in Copilot who's trying to find the same information. We have an entire masterclass coming up on events and AMAs, and we've got some really exciting stuff coming down the pike. So I strongly encourage you to join us in late March for an update on live events and AMAs. And we have links to our AMA playbooks and our Microsoft examples on this slide. To close out the wheel, you want to be able to measure and improve your performance and your effectiveness. And to talk about analytics and coaching, I'm going to pass the baton back to Allison.
All right. Thank you so much. We're going to close it out with analytics, and we'll also leave you with a few resources. If you've been around at all, or if I've talked to you before, I love data. And so we have so much data available to all of you at a variety of levels, whether it's at the conversation level or scaling all the way up at the network level. And of course, we have a variety of different availability based on licensing as well. So we'll definitely drop a kind of almost like a matrix of what's available for which type of license and for who. But Dan, if you want to go ahead to the next slide, I just want to kind of take a quick step, because I know we're almost at time. But I definitely want to say we can drill down all the way at the conversation level, especially important for corporate communicators. You can see the level of engagement and reach, and as well as where are people viewing from? Where are they reacting from? Where are they seeing the content? I think that might be one of my #1 questions that my customers ask me is, are they seeing it from Teams, Outlook, Web, SharePoint? Where are they consuming it? Where are they reacting? Additionally, with the CNC licensing, you'd also be able to get the themes and sentiment analysis from those conversations. Super important for those very long and a lot of comments within some of those conversations. Dan, if you go to that next step, in my mind, this is how are my posts performing, or if you're a delegate, how are my leaders posts performing within Viva Engage? So you have the ability to have personal analytics to see, how your content is performing, so you can repeat some of that content. And then if you go to the next slide, my personal favorite, this is kind of the secret behind the scenes. This is why setting up your audiences for those leaders are so important, because you have just an additional layer of analytics. In my mind, this is, what is my audience posting about? What do they care about? Where are they interacting on, in and on and Viva Engage, so that my next set of communications are relevant and targeted and top of mind for what my employees want. Additionally, I love this because, like Dan said about the Ask Me Anythings, maybe your next Ask Me Anything could be based on topics that you're pulling from the themes from your audience as well. If you go to the next slide, of course, we have community insights. We actually just released a refresh for this for both Microsoft 365 e-licenses, as well as new updates and additional analytics for our CNC folks. So we've got even more for you all, and these are brand new. We're really excited. I think these are a couple of weeks old. So we're really excited about this new look and additional capabilities just within the context of communities as well. The last few are the campaign analytics, like Najla talked about, kind of diving in deep across that specific campaign, across the entire network, focused and hinged on that hashtag that's used across communities, as well as different storylines. And then Dan, if you go to the last one, this might be, we could honestly spend an entire hour just on what is included at the network level. So I hope you join us in the analytics deep dive in that masterclass, because we're going to spend a lot of time on what's included in here and all these different pieces, as well as the sentiment analysis and the themes, as well as most popular communities, kind of at that most broadest network level as well. So We've got a lot to share on analytics and really excited. So hope you come back in a couple of weeks and join us and bring your paper and pen, because it's going to be one for taking a lot of notes from an analytics perspective. All right. I think that's it for me. We've got a couple of minutes left to close us out.
So we've seen the features that help leaders and communicators reach and engage employees at scale. We know we've just scratched the surface of what you probably want and need to know. We have a number of topics, special topics we'd love to cover, but given time, we are going to provide recordings of these topics in our customer connection community and eventually on our YouTube channel and blog as well. So follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Blue Sky, join our customer connection community, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll make sure to get this content out to you as quickly as we possibly can. To close out, Microsoft has shifted heavily to Engage. These slides will be in your deck so you can see the kinds of things we're doing. And my favorite slide here, which I'll close with, is a slide about why to use Viva Engage for modern communications. And this slide is actually based heavily on a slide from a customer. This is how they talk about why they're using Engage. Fewer emails, fewer static newsletters, more authentic communications, humanized leadership, responsive leadership, and most importantly, making change, managing change at scale. So with that, I'm actually going to hand it over to Allison to close us out with the resources.
Great. Thank you all so much for sticking with us. Thank you so much for asking really incredible questions and participating. We hope this isn't the end of our conversations. Please join us in our customer community. And if you have a great takeaway or something that you're learning from these master classes, we would love to hear what you're learning and also what you want to know more of. After the last master class a couple of weeks ago, we walked away with a whole list of more topics of things that we can dive deep on. So we're really excited, and we hope this is only the start of our building our relationship with you all and our customers. Dan, if you go to the next slide, we shared this a few times in the chat, but just wanted to make sure we have an incredible resource. It's a brand new ebook that the Microsoft team from Corp Comms as well as IT created, and it's got step-by-step of how they did it from a governance perspective as well as a community perspective, plus Corp Comms, and all working together. And if you're rolling out Copilot, there's some incredible content in here about how they did Copilot champions and how they used Viva Engage as that as well. So lots of really good resources. That's a brand new resource I wanted to make sure you all had at your fingertips. And then Dan, if you go to the next slide, actually do two more slides, and then we'll wrap. This slide, yeah. We've already talked about the customer connection. Please join us there. That is where you'll get sneak peeks to upcoming previews. You'll get to try new things. You'll get to ask us questions, be invited to different events as well. We'd love to have you there, and also to share your stories of what's working or what's not, or does anybody else have this as well? And then finally, you've made it through the third masterclass, whether this is your first one or your third one. Thank you so much for joining. Be sure to join us for the next couple of weeks if that's relevant for you. And don't forget about our webinar that's happening in 2 weeks' time for the first Friday in March, as we go diving head first into AI for corporate communications on March 7th. So join us for First Fridays, March 7th. That one will be very, very early for this audience, so catch the recording on that one. All right, everyone, thank you so much. Anything else? I think we're good. We're at time. Super appreciate all your questions, comments, commentary. Let's give a round of applause for our presenters. We really appreciate them sharing their expertise and all the demos. Thank you all so much. Really, really appreciate it. Great work, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye. Take care.